Good afternoon, everyone. My name is André Luz. I am the CEO and founder of Glexys. Before, I was a testing engineer at Rolls-Royce Jet Engines. My job was to make sure that engines don't break in service. It's not pleasant. But it was a hard job because the testing for fracture takes a long time. So that made us realize that we could build a platform where you can test your engines virtually in a much more convenient way. And that's how we created Glexys Cloud. Just to give you an overview of how the design process of a product works, this part here is when you design the 3D of your product. This is where you add value to your product, but only takes 15% of the development time. 85% of development time is testing. Then you realize your design has not worked. You retest, and you keep testing and testing. This is highly expensive and is very limited. The solution is to do a virtual test. Virtual test is very convenient. You already have your 3D geometry in your computer. You just apply the physical equations, and you get the result, and you know if your design is going to work. And if it's not going to work, you can immediately change your design and make sure it is going to work. So you reduce development time by 70%, cost by 50%, and also aftermarket costs by 30%. However, this technology has two fundamental flaws. It's hugely expensive because you need several softwares and you need supercomputers. So unless you are in NASA, it's highly probable that you cannot afford using these software tools. But Industry 4.0 gave us two very nice tools: cloud computing, inexpensive broadband. So the question is it time now that we can finally have a flexible and affordable way of doing virtual tests? And the answer is Glexys Cloud. Let me tell you how it works. You have your 3D geometry. You upload it through the browser to our cloud system. Here you have a menu of all these are logos of all the software tools that you need for virtual testing. You just select which ones you need. If you need more than one, we have already interconnected them. And you make all your virtual tests very easy, and you just pay per time. And at the end, you get your design that it's tested, validated, and also optimized. And what we mean by this is we try to reduce as much as possible the material so that your design is cheap and efficient, but we don't want it to break. Of course, as you can imagine, the designers do not have the knowledge to operate these softwares. So a second feature that we have in our Glexys Cloud is a marketplace. It's basically a simple database of experts that work in engineering companies and freelancers that know how to operate these softwares so that they can make the virtual tests for you. Just to give you a little size of the market, currently industry spends $250 billion on physical testing. And only around 10 or 20% of that physical testing is actually required by law. The other you can actually replace by virtual testing. All industries can do this. We have been focusing on the automotive vertical. Okay, so let's see in the market what you have close to our solution. These guys here are virtual testing software providers. They realize that they cannot keep up with enterprise software, so they created something that they call token licensing. Basically means that you have several modules in their software, you buy a couple of tokens, and then you can just say, okay, now I'm going to use this module, I'm going to use that module. But you still need to pay up front, and you don't have any flexibility in terms of SaaS. These guys here are the supercomputer guys. Flexible hardware, but no software, so you still need to pay up front all the software. These last guys here are the marketplaces for lots of things, and you can find there are lots of engineers that know how to design a product, but you cannot find engineers that know how to calculate the product. Our business model, as I have explained, it's SaaS system. So you pay a subscription, and you select core hour packages. Core, it's processor, so it's number of hours that you use to make your calculations. Just to give you an overview of user monthly average, if you are in a small company that you just need to test small components, you can choose the 1500 core hours package. If you are in a larger company that you test the larger assemblies, you need more core hours, so you can select the 10,000 core hour package. The marketplace will take a 20% fee on expert hours. Just to give you in terms of gross margin, we'll have a 75% gross margin on this revenue, 20% goes to software provider, and this is a very good business for the software provider because they'll get premium 50% compared to their standard traditional enterprise business model software. The other 5% goes to the cloud provider. Founders, myself, so I developed a technology. Bruno is the business developer, so he's the guy that knows how to sell this technology to the automotive industry. And we have a couple of advisors, Bonini and João. They are both ex and former chief engineers at large automotive companies. And Nick Bean, he's an expert in simulation, so they are our advisors. We are raising 500,000 euros so that we can finalize the testing of our cloud system and so that we can final release in January 2018. The testing will be composed of alpha and beta version. The alpha version just tests the cloud system, and we'll have the first paying customers. The beta version will test the marketplace and the interconnection between the several softwares. We have several industrial automotive companies already signed to test this platform. Here you just see the logos of the large ones and the medium ones, but we also have smaller ones. As I explained, we are going to have revenue already during the testing phase, but of course this revenue will go up once we have the final product. Now, just to sum up, I'll pick up a bit on what Vitaly said, and before you press printing on your 3D printer, you're probably going to use Glexys Cloud to make sure that your design is going to work. Thank you very much.
Is it working now? So I guess you can find here a partnership, huh? Do you want to say some comments on it? Yeah?
So best presentation so far.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'll tell you why, and everybody else can kind of take some cues from you. You're explaining something pretty complicated, but you're doing it in a very simple way, so everybody that understands business can understand the business that you're getting into. The only question I had was, how big of a market is this? You know, where are you going to get your customers, and how are you going to, you know, it's not clear what your sales model will be. Is this something you have to build a big sales force for and go after them, or you know, how do you envision getting to market, and how big is it?
The market, as I explained, currently you spend a lot of money on physical testing, and people have pressures on time to market. So you need to close as possible. So you need to shorten that as possible. So the demand is already there on the market to find tools that can reduce as much as possible development time. We have, I have not explained, we have been in business as a consulting company for 4 years. So that's why you have these large companies here. We kind of developed this cloud system with them. So we already, so to answer precisely your question, we already have some customers that know how to operate. And of course, as you can imagine, once we have these two guys, we'll have all that supply chain. So you have, these are their suppliers, all of these are their suppliers, and this is their supplier. So the need, we are focusing on automotive, but aerospace is a huge market, defense is a huge market, energy is also very important for these tools. Of course, we can't go to all markets.
So my recommendation for next time you do this pitch is quantify the market a little bit and show how you're going to eat the market. You did a good job talking about kind of your AWS for testing.
Yes.
Almost. You're selling hours, compute hours. But you need to show how you're going to get to market and what these customers are for you, and kind of give at least a hint of a sales process, because you've been in the consulting business. That's much more high touch than, let's say, AWS. So doesn't need a response, just some feedback there.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, Magnus.
Thank you. Yeah, great presentation.
Thank you.
One thing that we have touched upon before, but that was not really clear here, is the licensing and handling of licensing. So I wanted to give you a chance to explain that, because you have software license providers who is really keen on getting paid, and you have big companies that are very keen on handling software licenses in a proper way, and you are an intermediate. Exactly. So how would that work?
So in terms of risk, that's to be straight. It's one of the risks. You can, if you look compared to Spotify, it's similar. We have the licensing risk. Currently, similar. So virtual testing software providers, they sell their software through licensing. It costs 100,000 euros, just to give you a number, 100,000 euros, 200,000 euros per user. And that's just very limited. So very easily you can spend $1 million in just one software package. So what we are doing and we are changing is we are telling these guys, okay, we are going to sell you core hours and you are going to pay you 20% of those core hours to the software providers. Why don't they do this? It's because you need other softwares and they are not going to give support to other softwares. So you need a third partner that integrates all the software, so you have one. And as you can imagine, even if you would have Siemens that would think of doing this, they just have a small package, so people would think that they are biased and would put. So you actually need an independent cloud provider, and that's what we are supplying to them. Currently, we have negotiated with these software providers licenses to do all this testing phase, and we are going to need for 2018 a revenue sharing agreement. This 20% is based on our current negotiation with them. It already gives them, this is important, this already gives them a 50% premium on if they would sell a license to a customer. It's just a question that majority of the customers, as they don't develop products every day, they don't need to use the software every day, and that's exactly what we are solving.
Quick question. Do you have any idea on your cost of customer acquisition and on your customer long time value? What's the ratio? Quick answer, 10 seconds.
We will have 5,000 euros cost acquisition per user, per customer. So that means that in a small customer, it takes you 3 to 5 months to recover that revenue, that cost.